What's up, guys? Today, we're finally gonna be reviewing this custom stippled Glock 34 that I have here. This frame for quite a few months. So this is the Glock 34 build that we did a couple of months ago, and I've actually been using 3 different frames with it. The first one was we used a serialized polymer 80 frame to try that out. Love that one to death. Then we tried another stippled frame. This one has been done completely different, and we'll talk about some of the differences here in a minute. But this one, 100% my favorite. And the main reason is because they recontoured the grip. Now, if you've watched any of my earlier videos that I've ever made, I've always talked about how I cannot stand the OEM grip on the full-size frames, i.e. the Glock 34, Glock 17. It's way more blocky than the Glock 19, and it just doesn't fit my hand. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Whenever I talk about this kind of stuff, you can train around anything. Like if you handed me a Glock 17 OEM and I went out and practiced, I could get super proficient with it. But what if I just want to stipple it and make it more ergonomic for my hands? And that's what stippling essentially has kind of evolved into. In the old days, we just did grip stippling to add texture, but then guys started figuring out how they could do grip reductions and kind of recontour the curves of the grip so that it would fit our hands better. That's what this guy did right here from Risen Gunworks. So let's find out what he changed on it, if it's gonna fit my hand, if I like it now. Then I'm gonna show you an example of a kind of a bad stipple job. Now, this stipple job wasn't done poorly. It's the type of patterning that they used, and some of the stippling kind of collapsed in on itself. Let's dive up close, let's take a look at it, see what we see. Then we're gonna go over some range footage. I'm gonna give you guys my impressions on how it feels compared to like an OEM or a Polymer 80 or my other stippled frame that's on the full-size frame. Then I'm gonna tell you at the very end of this video, knowing what I know now, if it were my money, would I buy it? All right, guys, so here we are up close with the custom Glock 34, AKA my version of the John Wick blaster, so let's get into this. So right here is the Glock 34 blaster we did. If you wanna see a full, complete video on all of this stuff, I will put links in the description and you can watch those after this video. But this one is our Risen Gunworks, and you can just see the beautiful job that they did on it right here. I mean, look at this bad boy. I mean, I love how deep he went with these accelerator style cuts. Your thumb really gets in there. Look how small this grip is right here. We're actually gonna, here in a little bit, we're actually gonna compare this to what the OEM size grip is so we can see what the difference is and how much material he removed. One thing I wanted to kind of show you guys is one thing I look for when I'm getting stippling done is the type of patterns they use. Now this pattern was the micro dot pattern that was super popular about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And the reason was when it came off the line, it looked like velvet. Has a really good grip to it, but it wasn't like chunky looking. One of the downsides is once you got holster wear, those little holes started collapsing in on themselves, and you got these little smooth spots right here. Doesn't really affect the way it grips that much, but it's one of those things, if you pay to get your gun stippled, you just don't want that happening. So that's something that I always look for in a stipple job. Now this one, I don't know what, I forgot the name of it, but look at that beautiful texturing. That is dead sexy. One thing I like is just how well my hand just fits right into that. It's like the gun was made for me. This double undercut right here, oh man, this undercut, the single undercut is always a given. I love that. It really prevents your knuckle from getting really bad. If you look, I have knobby knuckles anyway. It's my birdie finger, that's funny. But if this finger, you'll notice that inside knuckle sticks out more because of the callus from just shooting Glocks that have a really, really rough time, you know, getting your hand up there. I like how he also scalloped out right here on this mag release. So for you guys who don't know, the Gen 3 mag releases are pretty hard to hit sometimes. And when he does the grip reduction and then also scallops that out, it makes it so much easier to just hit it without having to reposition your grip. I mean, you just hit it right there. That's beautiful. The other thing you may have noticed is he did a glove bevel on it right here. And we'll talk about why this is really advantageous to a build here in a second. In addition to just being able to widen it out a little bit so you can have, if you have gloves on, you're good. That's what it looks like up close. Let's jump up top. Let's go over some of the things that he did and compare it to some other frames. Go over some of the range footage and see if this is something that I would do again, knowing what I know now. Back up top. top. One thing that I always look for whenever it comes to getting stippling is the type of patterning that they do. That's kind of important to me. Like I showed you up close with this Glock 19, this was the first gun that I ever had stippled, and it was actually done by a friend who was local who was learning stippling. Now, he did a bang up job when he stippled it. It wasn't his fault. 2.5 years ago, that was a very popular pattern, and it was super grippy, but it wasn't overly aggressive. The downside was, with the microdot stippling, the walls in between the little holes are so small that as you get holster wear and as you grip it and get dirt and grime in it, some of the walls will start to collapse over and you'll get smooth spots. So that's one of the downsides. It's not any fault of the guy who stippled it. It's all in the pattern itself. And that's exactly what I requested, was that pattern. Patterns are huge, textures are huge. For me, I don't really care for like the uber aggressive textures personally. I think they do them very well. Where's one that I have for an example? So for an example, for the big chunky patterns, my buddy XL Weapon Works, he does a great job on his stippling. He does a lot of stippling. He only does polymer 80s and P320s, so doesn't do anything else. He does a phenomenal job and his textures are spot on for what he does. I don't really care personally for the big chunky patterns. If I gotta be picky about things, I'm really nitpicking at this point. Don't get me wrong, I love XL Weapon Works and I love the work they do and I love the prices they do it for. I do believe he offers some smaller stippling patterns, but I just don't have any that I've reviewed. What they did with this one was it looks and feels like a textured snake skin. I mean, it is just dead sexy and it's beautiful. And you'll also notice this is another frame that I've had stippled. And you'll also notice the grip reduction that he did in this frame. I'm gonna try to line up the front straps. So you can definitely see the original contour in the rear here. And then we got this one in the front. It makes a huge difference on getting your hand all the way on the gun right here. And then with this beveled double undercut right here, and it's textured here, as well as with these thumb indentations, when you press out and you lock your elbows out, man, you just hang onto this gun so nicely. It's super easy to shoot fast. It's super easy to shoot flat. Now, the Glock 34 is inherently easy to shoot anyway. This just takes it to the next level. The other thing that I love about this is the glove bevel that he did right up in here that I showed you up close. That makes a big difference when I am transitioning from my index position down to my trigger pull. It's a very smooth transition, so you don't really got to think about it. And you just literally go from here and you just pull your finger straight back, and that glove bevel, even without gloves, it just guides your finger right to the trigger. Whereas with one that doesn't have the glove bevel on it, right here, this one doesn't have a glove bevel. When you're out there, you kind of have to force your finger down into the trigger shoe a little bit more when there's not a glove bevel. But it's not bad, it's just this enhances it that much more. The cool thing is though, he also works on the VP9, he works on the P320s, he works on MMPs, MMP shields, he does a lot of different things, as well as Glocks and polymer 80s. So if you have anything else, that's good. Now let's talk about the pros, and then let's talk about the cons. So pro number one is his lead times. He doesn't let himself get overwhelmed with a lot of work and then everyone's waiting for months and months. Now, when he does get loaded up, he closes his books, and then you're gonna wait about 4 to 6 weeks, just kind of depending where you fall in line when he opens his books. That's a good thing because I have seen some companies, regardless if it's stippling or getting slides done, where they'll take in a whole bunch of stuff and it gets out of control, then all of a sudden we're waiting 6 months to get our guns back. So that's one of the pros that he does, is he keeps everything very well managed and balanced. He also did a collaboration not too long ago, I believe, with Agency Arms, because as we all know, Agency Arms needs the help on the stippling. Their stuff's functional, but their lines are hideous. So the next pro is the price. He has prices that start at the high 200s and he has some that go to the high 300s. Just kind of depending on what little different features you want on yours and which ones you don't. So it's kind of up to you. Like I said earlier, if you just check the first link in the description, I've actually seen some companies who they know they do great work. I've seen them price their stuff in like the high $500 range, and then you still gotta wait like 3 months to get your gun. Stuff kind of like that. I'm not calling out any names, but they do phenomenal work, but you're gonna pay for it. This one, I think he strikes a very good balance between phenomenal work and his price point. You're not getting bottom of the bucket stippling with this. You're not gonna be like, send your gun off and be like, well, I hope I like it. No, you're gonna love it. And that's how I feel about it, at least in my experience. but I have a sample size of 1. Pro number 2 is the durability of his textures themselves. I've had this frame since before I got the Glock 34 slide. I was originally going to do the review on the Glock 17, and then I decided to do a Glock 34 build, and I was like, let's use this frame. But if you look at it, like you can see it up close, it looks brand spanking new. The way he does this texturing, nothing can collapse over like it did on the other frame. So you're not gonna have to worry about that when you get dirt and grime and all that cool stuff. If you're worried about the texture getting messed up, it's not gonna happen. Now, let's talk about some possible cons. Con number 1, anytime you get stippling done to your gun, you gotta send your frame off. That's gonna cost you a little bit of money because you're gonna have to overnight it via UPS. Not UPS store, you gotta go to the UPS facility or FedEx. FedEx is usually your best bet. A couple of years ago, I sent one overnight and it was a Glock 26 and I had to pay like $71. Then I found out after that you can do it for like half the price with FedEx. So I should have did that, one of those lessons learned. So that's one of the cons, you do have to ship it off, you do have to overnight it. So it does get pricey. Con number 2, you're gonna be without your gun for a while. If you are wanting to have your everyday carry gun stippled, that might be an issue. What I had to do back in 2016, when I had this gun stippled, was I just went out and I bought a Glock 26. Now you gotta keep in mind, this is before Polymer 80 existed. Plus it was a Gen 4, so Polymer 80 frames wouldn't have worked with it. So I went and bought my Glock 26, used that for carry, and then I sent my Glock 19 off. So unless you have multiple guns, I wouldn't send an everyday carry gun off. Now, you're probably asking, well, hey, what about Talon grips? Talon grips are great. Now, they don't work for me so well living out here in Arizona because when it's 115 degrees outside, all of my Talon grips have always peeled off. And yes, I applied them correctly. I used alcohol wipes to remove any oil and residue. It's just the heat, when you're outside and stuff and you're carrying close to your body, the heat makes it start peeling back. But they are great for like any other temperature, just not extreme heat. The pro to the Talon grips is they're super affordable. I'll put a link below to where you can find those. The downside is they don't recontour the grip. So throwing Talon grips on just an OEM Glock 34 frame wouldn't benefit me at all because I just don't like the way it feels. So all in all, let's talk about what my final impressions are. Knowing what I know now, would I do it again? And would I pay for it? If I had a Glock 17 and I was relying on it for duty or concealed carry or open carry to defend my life, would I do it? Absolutely, I would. I noticed a huge difference right off the bat when I went to the range. I noticed just a difference in not having to milk the grip. Now, I understand if you lock your knuckles correctly, you don't have to milk the grip, but sometimes it happens. So I just noticed when I was out shooting, I could get a higher grip up on the gun, and I was able to just wrap around it like nobody's business and just get a lot of recoil mitigation control, which aids in getting faster follow-up shots. So would I pay the $375 to send off my frame and get their top tier package done? I would, totally would. But let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comment section below. And also I wanted to ask you, if you've never had your gun stippled, have you ever shot one that was stippled? I would love to hear your feedback about that. But until next time, guys, I love you. You guys stay sexy.